Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into something that so many brilliant people go through, but almost never talk about: the real, hidden cost of having a high IQ brain and that deep, profound social exhaustion that seems to come with it.
Wow, that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? For so many gifted people, social events aren't really about connecting, they're this high-stakes performance. You learn, bit by bit, to hide the real you. And that mask, well, that mask can slowly start to eat away at you from the inside out.
To really get a feel for what this is like, let me tell you a story that perfectly captures this struggle.
So let's talk about Adrian. From the time he was a kid, he just knew his mind worked differently, that it moved way faster than everyone else's. But here's the thing, his enthusiasm, his intensity, it was usually seen as a problem, a disruption. He learned a really tough lesson, and he learned it young. Being too smart was a social mistake.
Now, fast forward to his 30s, and Adrian has become an absolute master of what's called code switching. He consciously simplifies his vocabulary, he hides his true passions, and he basically plays the part of an average guy just to blend in. It's a survival skill he's been honing for decades.
And this is where we see the real cost. After a work party that, from the outside, looked like a total success, Adrian goes home, locks himself in a dark room, and just feels empty. Absolutely hollow. His social battery isn't just low, it's been drained to a critical, crisis-level point.
Adrian's story isn't just a one-off. It's actually a well-documented psychological experience. So what is really going on underneath all of this?
The main idea here has a name. It's called masking. It's the act of hiding your natural way of being just to fit in. But it's not about being fake for the sake of it. No, this comes from something much deeper, one of our most powerful human instincts, the absolute need to belong.
And a big part of masking is something called code switching. This is when you change the way you talk, the way you act, your whole presentation to match the room you're in. But here's the kicker. This isn't easy. It takes constant, exhausting self-monitoring. It's like running a really complex piece of software in the background of your brain 24/7. And when you do this for years, maybe even decades, the consequences are, well, they're pretty severe. We're talking about a deep, profound sense of loneliness. This feeling that the real you is either too much or not enough, and a genuine confusion about who you even are without the mask. And of course, that chronic, soul-deep burnout.
Okay, so this brings up a huge question. Why is this so common for gifted people? Why is it so incredibly draining for them? Well, the answer isn't about their personality. It's about their biology. So yeah, why? Why does this performance drain that social battery down to zero?
The answer is actually pretty simple, but it's also incredibly profound. It's because a gifted brain isn't just a standard brain that happens to work a little faster. Nope, research shows us it is structurally and functionally different. It's literally wired to experience everything with more depth, more intensity, and more complexity.
And this slide really breaks down what that means. For starters, there's a larger volume in the limbic system, which means pretty much all information gets run through a really rich emotional filter. Then there's the default mode network. That's the part of your brain that's active when you're resting. And in gifted people, it's often hyperactive. That's where the chronic overthinking comes from. Their sensory cortex is also more reactive, so they get overstimulated easily. And get this, they use both sides of their brain more, which means even a simple chat is processed like a complex multivariable problem. Their brains are just built for intensity, period. And if that wasn't enough, there's another layer. We all have this biological clock called ultradian rhythms. Our brains are designed for about 90 minutes of intense focus, and then they need a 20-minute break to recharge and process everything. But in our culture, we just power through those signals, right? We treat rest like a weakness. For a brain that's already in overdrive, ignoring this is a one-way ticket to burnout.
So, we've got this unique wiring on the inside. But what about the outside world? Why do people feel like they have to wear a mask in the first place? This brings us to a really painful paradox.
We love the idea of genius, don't we? We write books about it, make movies about it, but in our day-to-day lives, the actual traits that come with it, that sensitivity, that sharpness, that intensity, they often make other people uncomfortable. And the result? Social punishment, isolation.
This is explained perfectly by something called the double empathy problem. And the key insight here is that the communication breakdown isn't one person's fault. It's a mutual misunderstanding. Think of it like a mismatch in operating systems. A neurotypical brain might run on social scripts and subtext, while a gifted brain values directness and logic.
One side might see intensity as arrogance, while the other is just totally exhausted trying to guess all the unwritten rules.
And this quote just nails the social dynamic. In cultures that have this cut down the tall poppies mindset, meaning anyone who stands out too much gets brought down a peg, gifted people learn to hide their abilities, not just to be liked, but to actually feel safe. They end up sacrificing who they are for psychological security, often just to make the people around them more comfortable.
So if this is hitting home for you, if any of this sounds painfully familiar, this last section is for you. How do you actually start to move forward from this?
First things first, and I want to be incredibly clear about this. Your intensity is not a curse. That fast-moving, deep-diving mind of yours is not a character flaw. And that social exhaustion you feel, that is a real, legitimate biological signal from your nervous system, telling you that you've been trying to live in a world that is just too small for you.
So what's next? Well, the path forward really has a few key steps. First, just acknowledge the mask. See it for what it was, a tool that helped you survive. Second, you have to find your safe spaces. Find the people and the environments where you can finally take the mask off. Third, honor your body's own rhythms. Actually schedule that downtime. And finally, and this is a big one, start the process of reclaiming who you really are.
And that right there is the real takeaway. In a world that is constantly pushing you to conform, to be a little smaller, a little quieter, a little less intense, the most radical and courageous thing you can possibly do is to find your people, honor your mind, and finally stop apologizing for the brilliant way that you are wired.